Okay, what is up, everyone? My name is Chris. Now, today I kind of want to tackle this a little bit because most of you may know this, some of you may not. Tomorrow is the NHL trade deadline, and should the Flyers make a move at this year's trade deadline? I have three answers to this. I have a yes, I have a maybe, and I have a no. I've kind of tried to tackle this in my mind for the last couple hours. I've been just thinking about it, pondering over a couple things, and we talked about it last night on the podcast, and I don't think it's a big thing. I don't think it's like insanely big if the Flyers don't make a move. I'm not gonna say get your hopes up. I just wouldn't get your hopes up because it's probably unlikely that they make a move. But I just want to tackle each answer, the yes, maybe, and the no, and then I'm going to go through that. So the latest video I made about the trade deadline was February 10th. I gave some updates for that game versus Florida, and then I talked about who I think the Flyers should get. I talked about John Gabriel Pageau, Nick Bonino, Kasperi Kapanen, and a couple others. Now, since that video, Tyler Toffoli has been dealt to the Canucks, so that's off the table. There's been talk about John Gabriel Pageau being asking price for a first-round pick. I would assume Kasperi Kapanen is probably around the same thing. It's like the Flyers are just I don't know, because I would say I'm gonna start off with the no. I would say no because of the way the team's chemistry has been. I mean, like, this team has been one of the best teams since maybe 2010-11, 2011-12, and that's probably about it. I mean, there hasn't been a team this good since then. Do you mess with that chemistry? Do you mess with changing up the lines with that fourth line being Bunnaman and Aube-Kubel, Michael Raffl, guys like Tyler Pitlick? They've all been great on the bottom six. Do you add to that bottom six? Do you add to the top six? Do you maybe switch up the lines down low? That line of Couturier, Voracek, and Giroux has been unreal since being put together. Kevin Hayes with Travis Konecny has been very good. That is my no. That is my question of being no, and I just don't. If they're not going to make a trade, then I don't see them doing that. If they just want to just add a guy and there's no value to the trade itself. Like I said it in the last video too when I talked about the trade deadline. I said it on the podcast many times. This is not a rental trade deadline if you're the Flyers. They have to go out and get someone that you can get on this team for these next couple of years because you do not know what the health of Nolan Patrick and Oscar Lindblom. And that's another big thing, and not Lindblom, Patrick. Do the Flyers even make a move because of Patrick? If they have hopes of him playing this season, do they make a move? He's probably one of their better young centers, and do they risk making a move if they have hopes of him playing this season? I don't know. No one knows, honestly. There's been more updates of Patrick practicing with the team and actually playing like full practices. He's still not cleared for contact, but there's been better updates besides the status quo that he's week to week and he's doing okay and this and that. And it's nothing against the status quo updates. If you have to give an update, that's the update you're supposed to provide. So again, that's another big thing. Now I'm going to say yes, and this is why. Because if you want to make a deep run in this playoffs, and I'm talking past the first round, even past the second round, you want to try to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, even the Stanley Cup Final, I would say yes. And if you want to add one of these guys, I would say it has to be a guy that's a Pageau, a guy that's a Kapanen, something that's going to make everyone say, wow, Philly got Kapanen, Philly got Pageau. It has to be something like that if you want to go far. Now, do I think this team can go far with this roster? Yes. I said it last night on the podcast. I honestly, out of the many years that I've been a fan, and I know I make that sound like I've been a fan for 20 years, I've only been a fan for this is, I believe, my 7th season. But again, like the many years I've been a fan, I honestly believe that this team can go pretty far. And I have hopes for this team every season. I just do. I'm a diehard fan. That's just how it is. That's how I roll. But it's like, if this team can add something at the deadline and go farther, but if they just stick with this roster, I'm completely fine with it. This roster is playing fine. There's no reason to mess with that if you don't want to make a trade. Don't force yourself into making a trade just because everyone else is. You have to put yourself with what you need, because the Flyers don't necessarily need a trade. Would it help if they get something good back? Yes. That would help any team, honestly. If any team was able to try to, I don't know, maybe take off salary cap or just improve their roster in the lower lines or upper lines, whatever they want to do, defenseman, backup goaltender, maybe if there's a goalie injured, or even just like a defenseman, a forward, whatever, you can do that, and that would help out your team. Now, my biggest maybe is the Flyers' cap space, because the cap space right now, they have 2.08 million, and they have 1.06 on LTIR. That's basically nothing. There's been talk about Gostisbehere. Now, he's basically off the market because he's down with the Phantoms. No one's going to want a guy who's in a conditioning stint with an AHL team. That's just not how it's going to work, especially because he's injured. And it's just not something someone wants to add right now because he's had the injury history in these last couple weeks, and it's probably a pretty high price for a guy who's on a conditioning stint, $4.5 million for the next 3 years. I don't know if teams want to do that. There's been talk about Robert Hagg maybe going. Maybe if the Leafs could, and I bring up the Leafs because there's been talk about Kapanen, and with that last night's loss to the Hurricanes with the 42-year-old David Ayres, the backup goaltender, who is the Zamboni driver for their AHL team. I don't, which is honestly hilarious, but I don't know if the Leafs want to be sellers because, and honestly, with the way that they've been playing and the way that they've basically been a letdown this season. That interview with Jake Muzzin, he put it perfectly. Like, they want it easy, and when it becomes hard, they just want nothing to do with it and they fold. It's just unreal. But again, like, I don't know if the Leafs are going to be sellers, because if they are, then maybe a guy like Kapanen or maybe Andreas Janssen, and like, I don't really know what's going to happen. But again, it's unreal. Now, that's like my biggest maybe is the cap space. I say no for the chemistry, and I say yes if you want to add for later into the rest of this season and beyond, the next 2, 3, 4 years if you want, because as I said, it's not a rental trade deadline, so you might as well try to get someone for these next few years. Now, I have a trade proposal here. I brought this up on the podcast. I've never brought this up on my video, at least I don't think I have. I said Mikhail Vorobiev, right, and a third-round pick to the Detroit Red Wings for Tyler Bertuzzi. He's a very good forward. He's fast. He's got a good shot. And he's pretty underrated in my opinion. He's 24 years old. He makes 1.4 for this season, and then he's an RFA in 2020, 2021. Now, Vorobiev has 1 year left at $784,000. He's still on his entry-level contract. He's an RFA after this season. Vorobiev, for me, is a guy that's like, he's very good in the AHL. He stinks in the NHL, and he plays low-line minutes in the NHL as well, which is expected because he's I believe he's on the second line with the Phantoms, but he's very good in the AHL. He's just a monster. He developed so long that there's no more room for him to develop in the AHL. He has to be an NHL player, and he just doesn't fit with the Flyers. I don't know if it's him or if it's the team he's on. Now, a trade may spark that, and also him going to the KHL after this season may spark that as well. Many guys that are from Russia and now in those parts of Europe, they'll go over to the KHL if they're struggling in the NHL or something like that, or contract-wise, whatever. That's happened with Jesse Pujärvi with the Oilers. He didn't like the contract, didn't like the team, whatever, and I believe as of now he's over with in the KHL or in one of those leagues, like the Swedish league, something like that. There's just many leagues out there. But again, I wouldn't mind this trade for the Flyers. I think it's a good fit. But if they want to add something minor, if they want to go major, yeah, get Pageau. Yes, and the reason we keep bringing up Pageau is because he's the number one thing. Now, there's also been talk about Jeff Carter. I mean, that was brought up a while ago, and then it kind of dwindled down because that last game the Flyers played the Kings, that was like, oh, will Jeff Carter come back because that interview with NBC Philly and Taryn Hatcher and all, and then it was like kind of dwindled down a little bit. No one was talking about it. It was just basically gone. And then Elliot Friedman put out an article saying like his thoughts on like the 31 teams, saying he thought the Flyers still have interest in Jeff Carter. Everyone's like, wait, what are you talking about? So it's like, do the Flyers try to get Jeff Carter? I don't know. I honestly wouldn't want them to get Jeff Carter. I don't think that's what they need at this point. I wouldn't mind it if they do it a certain, like, there's so many things that go into that would have to work out. The Kings would have to retain salary. The Flyers would have to give up a certain amount. it would have to be a worthy contract. They'd have to give something back to the Kings that was useful for them as well, obviously. And it would just have to be a smart hockey trade for Chuck Fletcher to make. So I don't know if the Flyers make a trade there. But again, my 3 questions, yes, no, and maybe. We're going to have to see what tomorrow brings. There's going to be a couple things. We're going to have a podcast coming in the late afternoon hours of tomorrow to see what happens. There's going to be a decent amount of trades. So again, we'll be bringing you guys all the updates on that. I'll probably have a video if the Flyers do anything. If not, I'll have a video after Tuesday's game versus San Jose, and then later in the week in these next couple games. So my podcast, my articles, those links are on my channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys in the next one, and goodbye.